This is the Gerry Callahan Show.
Well, I think we should start off today, Friday, big day, with congratulations to the Rhode Island State Police. Yes, you might not be aware of this. We learned this last night at the press conference. I don't even know what else they were talking about. This was big. This was my takeaway. It's the 100th anniversary of the Rhode Island State Police. Congratulations, guys. I mean, this is a big milestone. I think it was appropriate in the middle of a press conference talking about 2 dead kids and 1 dead professor because these buffoons couldn't get out of their own way. Yeah, that was also mentioned during this press conference. But this trooper took to the microphone shortly after they caught the killer. I shouldn't say they caught him. They didn't catch him. They found him dead in a storage locker in Salem, New Hampshire. And Darnell Weaver of the Rhode Island State Police stepped to the mics with millions watching around the world and thought it was appropriate to say he's really proud to be a Rhode Island State trooper. Here is Trooper Darnell. Go ahead.
This has truly been an all-hands-on-deck investigation, as virtually every trooper has taken extra shifts to help support the efforts in Providence, and I have never been prouder to be a member of the Rhode Island State Police. This year marks the 100th anniversary of the Rhode Island State Police, and this case stands out.
100th anniversary. Way to go, guys. And this case stands out. Can someone explain to me why this case stands out? I've been pissed off a lot this week, I know, but I don't think I've ever been quite as infuriated as I was watching these fools, these DEI clowns in Rhode Island, after they discovered the body in New Hampshire, pat themselves on the back, congratulate themselves. Every one of them went before the mic, and the first thing they did was say, what a wonderful job we did. What great work. We all worked together. We worked tirelessly. We took extra shifts. You mean you made extra overtime? Is that what you did, trooper? The mayor, chief of police, the DA, the president of the school stood up and said, I don't think the cameras being turned off had anything to do with this. I'm not going to be able to handle anybody telling us today what great police work they did. There's a dead professor, Nuno Loureiro, at MIT, a 48-year-old brilliant researcher, head of that department doing nuclear fusion study. That guy's dead today. His children are without a father because these fools didn't know what they were doing for 5 days. And they stood up there last night after they found the body and took a victory lap. If you didn't watch this, good. I did. And I couldn't believe what I was watching. We can go through the missteps. We've been doing it all week. This man, the killer, the murderer, the immigrant from Portugal, Claudio Neves Valente, the 48-year-old former Brown student who and former classmate of Professor Loureiro in Portugal, he walked into a classroom, shot it up. We still don't know how many kids were in the classroom. They still haven't talked to all of them. Murdered 2 students, injured 9 others, and walked out. And you are not going to believe how they cracked the case or why they cracked the case if you didn't stay up, if you didn't watch, if you didn't read. Let's get to the big break they got in the case. And we talked about it yesterday, day before, but they released photos of Valente. We saw him waddling around the streets, casing the joint, mask on, all black, well, not all black, but just looking around. And apparently he'd entered the engineering building, went to the men's room, and had an altercation with a homeless man that they're referring to as John. John is now the hero. John may be in line to collect the reward money, the $50,000. Here it is from the New York Post this morning. A homeless hero has been credited with cracking the shooting of at Brown University and MIT after he confronted the gunman, and the feds say he's now entitled to the $50,000 reward. The tipster, known only as John, was key to police eventually identifying Claudio Neves Valente as the suspect after he offered up key information on the 48-year-old perp's car following an odd encounter with him on the day of the shooting. He blew the case wide open, said Rhode Island Attorney General Peter Nerona. Let's go over this. If you're wondering what happened here, they put the picture out. They actually asked the public for help identifying John. They said he wasn't a suspect in the shooting, but he may have some information. Remember that? He's got a hood on, glasses. John, and I think I have this right, lived on campus. He's homeless. He is a alleged super genius, former Brown grad, and the college let him live on campus. You know where John lived? In the engineering building. He squatted in the building where the shooting took place. He lived where the kids were killed. And the officials at Brown University and the Providence Police Department had to issue a photograph, put it out there, and ask the public for help identifying John. He lived in the building, which is still a crime scene, where kids were killed, where kids were injured by this gunman, and they didn't know. Nobody at Brown, the president, that fool, the cops, the Rhode Island police, the DEI chief, the students, the faculty, the administration, nobody seemed to know when they saw that photo. Oh yeah, that's the super genius weirdo who lives in the building. This is just incredible. It's bad. I mean, it's bad. These people should have known, should have caught him, should have identified him long before. It was 2 days. And he went to MIT, went to Brookline, Mass., and gunned down Professor Loureiro. I look forward to Professor Loureiro's widow suing the hell out of these people and their $8 billion endowment. This is so outrageous. It's bad enough that they let this guy slip away, that they let him go on and kill again. But then they came out yesterday and said, it was great police work. Yeah, we got him. The homeless guy was a big part of that. You mean the homeless guy who lived in the engineering building where the shooting took place? You didn't think to talk to him before you put out a photo and asked for help identifying him? He posted on Reddit about the car, which was the key piece of evidence, days before they even found him and talked to him. Are you? Here is Police Chief Oscar Perez. I was curious, what are they going to do when they step in front of the mics? Are they going to say, we screwed up? Are they going to say, we should have known there was a guy living in the building where the shooting took place who had an encounter with the killer, who knew what the killer's car looked like? He saw him and thought it was suspicious. The car that was sitting in a parking lot for, they believe, days. That guy could have told him these things days before they actually talked to him, but they didn't know who he was. And these fools came before the world, came before the cameras and said, we did a great job. Boy, our partners, we all worked together and we solved the case and we got him. The FBI guy, the Boston FBI guy, was at this press conference. And the first thing he did, step before the mic and say, we got him. You got him? You found a corpse in a storage locker in New Hampshire after 5 days. He walked on your campus. He walked into an auditorium full of kids and just started shooting. And then he walked away. As we've said all week, I didn't think that was possible. We've seen a lot of school shootings. We've seen a lot of mass shootings. We've never seen a guy just walk away. Where were the cops? Where were they? Why didn't they show up? They didn't even show up in time to know how many kids were in the room. Show up in time to take a roll call and say, who was here? What did you see? What did you hear? They did. He slipped away, and they were still scrambling yesterday to figure out who was in the auditorium when the shots took place. This is just the height of ineptitude, of incompetence. And they want you to believe they did great. Here is Oscar Perez.
Accountable. Second thing I'll tell you is that I'm extremely proud of this department, actually the officers, the detectives, the real-time crime center, the community response team, the intelligence division, the narcotics division, the task force. This past Saturday, as you all know, December 13, Providence Police Department and Brown University Police Department responded to this horrific tragedy at Brown University 184 Hope. Our officers were there within minutes.
Oh no, they weren't there. Minutes, way too many minutes. Shut up. I don't ever want to see this guy again. I got people telling me, "Oh, he's a good man. He's a good guy." He failed. He failed the students, and he failed the Nuno Larrero in Brookline, Mass. Everybody knows if they'd caught him quickly, if they'd grabbed him up. I mean, I could go over some of the reasons. No cameras. No cameras. You know why? And I believe this is true because we saw, they asked the university president last night and she wouldn't deny it. They shut the cameras off because radical leftists demand they shut the cameras off because they didn't want them to help ICE or any other law enforcement outfit. They had no key cards to get in the building. They had no security guard there on the scene. They got DNA off the cartridges, the bullets they found that hadn't been detonated, and they didn't know this for 4 days. 4 days. There wasn't something you could do. They didn't know who was in the room, in the auditorium. They still don't know. They didn't interview every kid that was in that room, which is something they should have done in the first hour. They didn't. You know why they didn't know? Because the kids just walked out. They should have held them there. They should have talked to every single one of them. There were 400 kids in this class. 60 of them showed up at the study session. Why didn't they call all 400 Saturday night? Say, were you there? Oh, no. Okay. Next guy. Were you there? Yes. Okay. Let's talk. Let's talk. What did you see? What did you hear? They didn't know. They still won't tell us what the gunman, Valente, was yelling. Everybody said he was yelling, and everyone was wondering, what was he yelling? Here's the answer. Get the Attorney General last night when asked yet again, can you tell us now what the gunman was yelling? Could you help us out here? What was he yelling? His answer, this whole thing, this whole press conference was a joke. These people are all, every single one of them are absolute jokes. You should be embarrassed, Rhode Island. These are your elected officials, your appointed officials. These are your community leaders, the mayor, the DA, the Attorney General, the police chief, the state trooper, and of course, the the Brown University police, the biggest joke of all. The people who didn't have a cop on the scene like in a minute. Shot, but 11 kids shot on your campus and you're not there within a minute. It's just the height, again, of ineptitude. Here's the DA explaining what he thinks the gunman was yelling. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, back to that question just for a minute, just to clarify that. They had a interaction in the bathroom in Barris and Holly. So, I don't know, the Providence Police is obviously not going to patrol Barris and Holly. That's a question frankly, for Brown and their police department. So they had an interaction there, and then our citizen, followed him out because to him, as he explained it to us, this guy did not belong there, and so that's why he followed him out. In terms of what was said, I don't know any more today than what I told you yesterday, or the day before. There are some witnesses who said he said nothing. There are some that say he made a barking noise. Don't ask me. I don't know why. And that's it. There is no other spoken word beyond that we are aware of as we stand before you.
A barking noise? Does anyone believe that he was making a barking noise? We don't know. Hopefully there's still some journalists who will reach out to the kids who were injured or the kids who were in the room and didn't get shot. What did you hear? What did you see? We don't know. This story of John, the homeless guy, we got to go over this. This is just mind-boggling.
Hey, though, it sounds like our friend John DePietro had some firsthand knowledge from some of the potential students in there.
Yes. Well, he has to keep going. He's done some good work. Keep going. And our friend Tommy Quinlan, we will get to him, Rhode Island radio host who just gave the most incredible interview on Fox as this whole thing was unfolding. But I want to go over this again because it is, I mean, you have to hear it again to believe it. John, the homeless super genius who lived in the engineering building where the shooting took place. Here's how they cracked the case, thanks to John. John's tip first came to light when he started posting on Reddit that he recognized the images of the perp that had been blasted out by authorities. I'm looking at a picture of John right now. They sent this out because they didn't know who he was, even though he lived in the building. Anyway, quote, "I'm being dead serious," his Reddit post said. The police need to look into a gray Nissan with Florida plates, possibly a rental. I know because he used his key fob to open the car, approached it, and then something prompted him to back away. The homeless guy, when he backed away, he says he relocked the car. I found that odd. So when he circled the block, I approached the car. That is when I saw the Florida plates. So the homeless guy living in the building where the shooting took place posted days later that he saw him and he knew his car and the plates. And the university didn't interview the guy living in the building where the shooting took place. And again, didn't recognize him when they had photos from neighbors, ring cameras. They didn't recognize the guy who cracked the case. They had to send it out and beg the public for help. Do you know this man? Again, we're talking Brown University police who knew he lived in that building, who knew who he was. He was a guy, a weirdo wandering around the campus every day, and they didn't know who he was. They had to ask the public to identify him. And we're supposed to take today, great police work. Way to go, guys. Congratulations, 100-year anniversary of the state police. Get me Tommy Quinlan, who went on last night on Fox and just gave the most, I mean, Jesse Waters was interviewing him and he was speechless. This was incredible. This was left up to Tommy Quinlan, local radio host in Providence, to explain who the guy is, who cracked the case wide open, who solved the case. The weirdo, super genius Brown grad who is like Matt Damon in Good Will Hunting, just a genius who's hanging around campus. Listen to this.
Evening. So from what I've heard from my law enforcement officials here this evening is that this person that turns out to be a man, we didn't know if the gender was a male or a woman, turns out to be a man, apparently made contact with the shooter 2 hours before the shooting itself happened. Apparently, according to what I'm hearing from my law enforcement sources here on the ground, is that this suspect, the shooting suspect, was casing out the area for nearly 2 weeks. And there was a confrontation with this person that has, according to my law enforcement officials, is being identified as a homeless person who was living in or around that Brown University building that we're all talking about at Barris and Holly, graduated from Brown University at 2010, had a confrontation with the shooter before the shooting itself happened. And when you look at that video that the FBI put out the other day from that home, that is allegedly what the shooter is running away from.
Wait. You're saying, Tom, that the second person was a homeless Brown graduate that was living at Brown in that building?
Yeah. According to my sources, that's what they're saying, yes.
Okay. So someone graduated from Brown and is now homeless, and Brown's letting them live in one of their buildings? Was it the same building that was shot up?
Yes, it was. And the details that I'm getting are very sparse at this time. You know, a lot of this information is coming in rapidly fast. But according to the law enforcement sources that I talked to earlier today, this homeless person is considered to be a super genius, apparently. Graduated from Brown University in 2010. I don't know how he became homeless, but he's the person that we see in the picture that was released yesterday by police, and apparently came in contact with the shooter 2 hours before the shooting happened itself. And apparently the shooter was going to commit the act at the time, but after the confrontation, the shooter left and eventually ended up coming back.
Yeah, because
Again, Saturday, John, the homeless guy, had an interaction before the shooting. John, the homeless guy who lived in the engineering building, knew what kind of car he drove and what state the plates, Florida plates, Nissan Sentra. That eventually is how they solved this. You had license plate readers that caught him in Massachusetts and then in New Hampshire. They have video of him entering the building where he shot Professor Lorero, and then they have video at the storage facility in New Hampshire. This was all explained in detail by U.S. Attorney from Boston, Leah Foley, who was the exact opposite of these Rhode Island clowns. She gave a press conference solo. No one else talked. She didn't spend 10 minutes bragging about what a great job she did. She didn't tell us, anything about how tired she was and how they worked overtime on this case. It was such a contrast. If you want to see how these press conferences should be conducted, go back and watch this entire press conference. This is how it should be done. These clowns in Rhode Island, I thought they might learn after 5 days of getting panned, getting just wrecked by everybody for their ineptitude, for their self-congratulations. They have learned nothing. This should be the whole story today. It is in the New York Post. It should be everywhere. I'm sure, the Boston Globe and the Providence Journal will not cover this, but this is such a blatant miss that you can do nothing but assume that Professor Lorero would be alive today if Rhode Island had a competent state police, Providence police, certainly Brown police. Why aren't they asking that question? Why didn't you know that the guy who cracked the case, the guy who interacted with the killer, lived on your campus? Why did you not talk to him 10 minutes after the shooting? Say, have you seen anything? You live here. You're around here. You wander around every day. You're a super genius. He was posting on Reddit. They were not talking to him. He was literally, I guess, he's got a laptop in his little basement apartment in the building. Some people call him a janitor. So he is like Matt Damon in Good Will Hunting, but whatever. He was a witness, a key witness. And they didn't know. They didn't talk to him. And no one's blaming him, saying, yeah, good. I can't help but think. My mind goes to the victims. Ella Wood, the Alabama sophomore. Her parents had to sit and watch these fools talk about the anniversary of the police force or what a great job they did working together. And they had to listen to this friggin' idiot from the FBI step before the mic and say, we got him. We got him? You got him after he killed our kid. You got him after he killed a professor in 2 days later. Why didn't you get him in the first 10 minutes? Why didn't you talk to the witness? Here is Leah Foley last night, immediately after the Rhode Island Parade of Fools did their victory dance, their victory lap. Here she does, lays out everything, how they got him. They were tracking his phone. He was changing SIM cards, changing the license plate on the car. He was planning to leave Thursday night. He had a plane ticket, she believes, to get the hell out because he's not American. He came in through the diversity program. We'll get to that. But here's the U.S. attorney last night.
So investigators identified the vehicle that he had rented in Boston and then drove to Rhode Island. And the vehicle was seen outside of Brown, and there was security footage that showed a person who resembled him. There was financial investigations that were going on in the background that linked him not only to that car, but also to the hotels that he had rented and the car that he had used to not only drive to Rhode Island, but then back to Boston. And then there was the security footage that captured him within a half mile of the professor's residence in Brookline. And there is a video footage of him entering an apartment building in the location of the professor's apartment. And then later that evening, he is seen about an hour later entering the storage unit wearing the same clothes that he had been seen wearing right after the murder.
That's more information in a minute from her, pertinent information than you ever got from that clown, Oscar Perez, or that mayor. By the way, all week, what were we told? No link. No link. That's what Oscar Perez told us. No link between the two killings, between the two shootings, the two kids at Brown and the professor at MIT. No link. There was a link. This guy went to college with Nuno Loureiro in Portugal. He went to Brown 25 years ago. We're still not sure why he's shooting up a classroom in Brown, but we know why. We don't know why, but we know he's connected. He had a relationship of some kind with the professor. We will know more. We won't learn it from Rhode Island, but we'll know more soon, hopefully, from Leah Foley. By the way, Kristi Noem immediately canceled the program. It's called the diversity program. I mean, the diversity visa. We let in 50,000 people a year on the diversity visa in a lottery. This guy was lucky guy. He got here on a diversity visa from Portugal. I think it's another reason we have to end all these programs, end them all. I don't care if he was smart and studying whatever, physics. He shouldn't have been here. Another foreigner allowed in this country to kill. It's sickening. The whole thing is sickening. I'm not going to be able to handle another day of people saying, what a great job the cops did. They cracked the case. They got him. We got him. I actually said that like he's like some big, like he was involved in some big manhunt. You had nothing to do with it. You failed. You people failed. You failed Ella Cook's family, and you sure as hell failed Nuno Loureiro's family. All right, I could do this all day. I can't tell you how outraged I was last night watching this. Just saying, are they really going to talk about how hard they worked and how tired they are? How tone deaf do you have to be to step up in front of a camera and talk about yourself and how hard and how tired you are? That's what this clown, this mayor, this Harry Potter looking guy sit there and say, yeah, I'm tired. We worked so hard. Yeah, it was the Boston FBI guy who said, we got him. We got him. You know what? Let's just move on. Move on from Rhode Island. Move on for these fools. And again, express our sympathies to the victims and hope the 9 kids who are still in the hospital come out of this okay. You know what? No one should ever go to Brown University again. These are smart kids. They have a choice. Why would you go to a place that's not going to protect you? Go to a place where they shut off the cameras at the behest of the ACLU and other human rights organizations because, cameras might catch illegal aliens. Can't wait for the lawsuit. I hope it's, Brown can afford it. They'll just write a check. They got $8 billion in the bank, but I think they have been exposed. Brown University is a clown college that no smart kid should ever go to again. They have no interest in protecting you. All right, speaking of not protecting us, we got to get to these scams, these scandals. The scandal in Minnesota, as many people said, was the tip of the iceberg. We talked initially about a few $100 million stolen by Somalians, stolen by people in Tim Walz State, in Ilhan Omar's district, as the Democrats looked the other way. That's the only explanation. We can't even grasp how big this scam was in Minnesota, and it's happening everywhere. It's happening in Maine, and it's happening in Massachusetts. We bring people here who do nothing, who don't appreciate it, they have no gratitude. They come here and they rob us blind. We're going to get to the extent of the scandal and huge, great news. It's not all bad news. Great news yesterday. HR. I want to get the House passed a bill, Marjorie Taylor Greene's last bill that she will pass in the House. It just barely passed, protecting children from genital mutilation, from gender affirming care. God, this is such a big day. It's such a great thing. I don't think we quite appreciate how the tide has turned, how people have woken up to the biggest medical scandal in our lifetimes. We'll tell you about that and a lot more. But first,
Excuse me.
you know, Christmas used to mean something simple: family gathered around a table, real conversation, hard work, rewarded with a little time to breathe. We didn't cut corners because we didn't believe in shortcuts. You earned your rest. But these days, everything moves so fast. Everyone's looking for the easy way out, but not our friends at Beam. Beam is a company proudly founded in America and run by people who share our values: hard work, integrity, and delivering results. And we all know that can be especially hard during Christmas. That's why I want to tell you about Beam's Dream Powder. It's a healthy nighttime blend packed with science-backed ingredients shown to improve sleep so you can wake up refreshed and ready to take on the day. When I found Dream, everything changed. I started sleeping through the night without tossing and turning, and I woke up energized, not groggy. It's been a game changer for me. Dream is made with powerful blend of all natural ingredients: reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, and melatonin. Dream tastes incredible. I like the brownie batter. That's my favorite. So if you've been waiting for the right time to try Dream, this is it. Visit shopbeam.com/Gerry and use code word Gerry and take advantage of my exclusive discount of up to 40% off. So with my discount, Gerry, you can get the best-selling Dream Powder for just $39. So seriously, think about it. How much would you pay for a truly great night's sleep? With my discount, it's just $1.25 per night. So go to shopbeam.com/Gerry today. You know, the first thing a journalist in New England should do today is find John, find the homeless super genius. I mean, he's homeless. He wanders around all day. You've seen pictures of him. Find him. Talk to him. That'd be a great story. But no, we'll be busy celebrating the 100th anniversary of the Rhode Island State Police. All right, we got to get to this because this is such a big day, such a good day for children, for this country. 5 years, 10 years ago, 12, 15 years ago, this would never happen. For some reason, we fell under the spell of the trans mob. We somehow fell for the trans madness. At some point, these ghouls, these freaks, convinced people that confused children should change their gender. Yeah, that's the solution. Some kid, 10, 12-year-old kid who's confused, who's depressed, got anxiety, got ADHD. You know what the solution is? It's a boy, let's make him a girl. A girl, let's make him a boy. And when you sit here today and think about this and understand what we're talking about, it will never not be mind-blowing that we as a country, as a culture, hell, we in the West fell for this insanity. Well, we're doing something about it. Finally, here it is from CNN. The House voted to pass a bill that could imprison healthcare providers for providing gender-affirming care. That's from CNN. I wanted to find someone from the left, see how they put this in, see how they spun this. The bill is titled the Protect Children's Innocence Act, sponsored by Marjorie Taylor Greene, would make it a Class C felony to treat minors with gender-affirming care like surgeries and puberty blockers. If enacted, must pass the Senate, which is a big if. The bill could imprison doctors who provide such care for up to 10 years. Now, I have a problem with that. That's not enough. 10 years, they should do life. Again, let's boil this down. Let's break this down. You got a kid, 10, 12, 13 years old. He or she is confused. They don't know. In the old days, you had, 20, 30 years ago, you had tomboys. You had effeminate guys. Well, somewhere along the line, we decided the tomboy was actually a boy. And what we did about it is ghoulish. It is Dr. Mengele stuff. I know we've been talking about it for years. In fact, you couldn't talk about it in some places. I can tell you firsthand, you weren't allowed to question this madness. But they would give a girl a double mastectomy. They would actually cut the private parts off a boy and tell him he's a girl. Do you understand how insane that is? As I've said many times, you got a kid, he's confused, he's depressed, and you tell him the solution is to sterilize yourself. You will never have relations with a girl or a boy. You will never enjoy sex. You'll never have a child. You'll never procreate. I always think of this, the biggest, I would say, joys in my life, in my entire life, would be two things. Being intimate with my wife and having kids. You deprive them of that because they're depressed, and then you say, yeah, we fixed him. We made the boy a girl. Now he's all better. People don't even think this through. They just say, oh yeah, it's care. Oh, it's hate. If you want to stop this crazy, you hate a child because you don't want them mutilated. Here's the most disturbing part. Here was the vote, 216 to 211. It passed in the House. GOP 213 to 4. 4 cowards in the Republican Party voted against this, voted against banning these barbaric procedures on children. Democrats, 207 no, 3 yes. 207 Democrats voted against this and then went on the floor of the House and started talking about how we're going to deprive trans children. Let's get this straight. There's no such thing as a trans child. There's no, you don't tell a kid he was born in the wrong body. That's the cruelest, meanest thing you could do. You're born in the wrong, God made a mistake. You're born in the wrong body. Let's get the scalpel out and fix you. And this insanity was on full display yesterday. Let's get to, one Democrat woman after another went to the floor and started screaming about how cruel this is. Cruel. To stop them from giving puberty blocker. Do you realize how crazy that is? You're going to mess with a kid's body and stop them from going through puberty and tell them this is the cure. It's just, we will look back someday, 30, 40, 50 years and say, this is like, giving a kid a lobotomy. This is like just putting leeches on to suck your blood. It's just the whole idea, the concept that this is a cure. It's just the craziest thing we've ever lived through. Here is Pramila Jayapal ranting against this law, which passed yesterday in the House. Go ahead.
The most common form of gender-affirming care for young people is medications that simply pause puberty and have been used safely for decades. So why do my colleagues across the aisle, so-called limited government people, suddenly want government to get in the way of the decisions that parents and their kids make together? Why do they want to stop children from getting medical care that has been proven to be safe and effective and helps them to live happily? Helps them to live. Just live.
That's a lie. That's all lies. It simply pauses puberty. Do you hear yourself, lady? Do you realize how crazy that's? We're going to simply give you a pill or a shot and you'll pause puberty. I got a better idea. Why not let them go through puberty and then decide? Why not let him grow? Why not let him get to 18? And then he could do this, which is insane, but it's, at least he's not a child. Again, we've gone over this a million times. You can't get a tattoo. You can't get a beer. You can't make your own decisions about anything except changing your gender and lopping off your private parts. I want to show this. This is the spokesman for the Department of Health and Human Services. This is historic. Can I just say this is historic? This is a department that was headed essentially by a man named Richard Levine, who changed his name and wore a dress. And he was a menace before he got appointed by Biden but he got the job because he's a man who wears a dress. That was 5 years ago. This is today, the spokesman for the same agency. Watch this, listen to this, and just appreciate this as he takes to the podium yesterday. Go ahead.
Men are men. Men can never become women. Women are women. Women can never become men.
I love this man. I love this man. That is so refreshing. Again, that's historic. Do you realize what a sea change we're living through from 5 years, hell, from 1 year ago, when you had that freak Sam Brinton who was stealing luggage, and you had Rachel Levine who was up there in a pretend Navy uniform, pretending to be a man, pretending to be a woman, pretending to be an admiral. He's gone. I don't know where he is today, but that guy, this guy, has replaced them. Listen to Dr. Oz. This could be the most incredible moment in the history of the Department of Health and Human Services. This is Dr. Oz, who's the administrator of Medicare and Medicaid services. He's running this agency, and he just explained something that everybody should hear. We really should. We should talk. We should listen to this and talk about this and understand how insane it is. Go ahead.
Vaginoplasty, a procedure a child does not need, costs $60,000. Shockingly, a phalloplasty, the creation of a penis, costs on average in America, according to this data, high quality, $150,000 per child. I do believe, with doing some work, that these prices have continued to increase with increasing manufactured demand. And I must point out that the creation of a vagina in that case of a phalloplasty or a scrotoplasty where you add testicles, that's extra.
That is a real clip. A DHHS administrator explaining it cost $150,000 to make a penis and more to make testicles. Can we just, be honest here? You can't do that. There's no such thing as making a penis. Your penis is made in the womb. Penis is made when you're created. I don't even want to talk about the cost. The cost is irrelevant. The procedure is barbaric. It's ghoulish. It's cruel. But taxpayers are supposed to pay $150,000 to take some poor, confused young tomboy and make her a penis and then add testicles, which don't work. You don't get to enjoy all the best things about being a man because you're not a man. And this was a wonderful moment. It didn't get enough attention, but it should. We should all appreciate what the House did yesterday, hopefully what the Senate will do, and we will finally start saving children and putting these ghouls in prison where they belong. All right, we got to move here. I want to get to this fraud. Do I have time to do this fraud? I'll do it quick. I'll do it as quick as I can. The breadth of the scandal, of the fraud, of the theft by Somalian immigrants, Haitian immigrants, is just staggering. The U.S. attorney in Minnesota spoke yesterday about this, and he pointed out that the programs, all those Medicaid programs and the Feeding the Future and the autism programs cost Minnesota taxpayers $18 billion. To put it in perspective, that's 10 times the annual budget of the city of Minneapolis. He estimates at least half is fraud. At least $9 billion, which is more than the GDP of Somalia, was stolen by Somalian fraudsters. And he pointed out, among other things, they bought, let me get the list of things they bought, a villa in the Maldives First-class tickets to Istanbul and Amsterdam, luxury autos, homes, and bags full of cash. They found at least half, $9 billion, stolen from people with an average IQ of 68, as we've talked about before. How is that possible? It's possible because you have corrupt Democrats who facilitated this, who allowed this. Tim Walz, Ilhan Omar, Keith Ellison, these are criminals. Someone has to hold them accountable. Tim Walz, he can't just lose his reelection. He has to go to prison. Ilhan Omar should be deported. We know she lied. This is going to take some balls, but it has to happen. If it doesn't happen, it's going to continue over and over again. In Massachusetts, this story is just mind-boggling. Here's the real story. These thieves, these fraudsters, they do what they do because they're protected by Democrats. It happens mostly in blue cities and blue states because they know Democrats will look the other way. There was a scandal in Massachusetts that U.S. Attorney Leah Foley explained. They stole $7 million from SNAP recipients, from the SNAP program, selling their food stamps to these scammers. They set up fake grocery stores, convenience stores. She explains they weren't even stores. One of them, there's two guys from Haiti. Two guys from Haiti came to Massachusetts, probably lived in a Healy hotel and a free hotel and a free phone and free Ubers and free healthcare. One guy set up his store. It was 150 square feet. It had one cash register and no baskets, no lines, no carts, no nothing. It wasn't a real store. And they stole upwards of between $200,000 and $500,000 a month. A real supermarket only cashes, like a big one, like a Star Market or whatever, $82,000 a month in food stamps. These guys were billing $200,000 to $500,000 a month. They were just stealing and they weren't even subtle because they knew it was Massachusetts and they would be protected. It takes the feds to come in and bust them. Did we have Leah Foley explaining this scam? We're lucky they're so brazen. But answer me this. Why wasn't this scam busted on day one, month one? Why did it take a couple of years? Why did it take $7 million before they busted these thieves? Listen to her explain.
Neil Bonner and Saul Elisme for large-scale SNAP benefit trafficking, a scheme that turned a program designed to feed families into a multi-million-dollar criminal enterprise. SNAP benefits are also known as food stamps. The defendants are charged with one count of food stamp fraud. As alleged in the charging documents, these men abused one of the government's most critical safety net programs for their own financial gain. This is taxpayer money meant to keep people from going hungry. These defendants decided to take it for themselves. These defendants exchanged SNAP benefits for cash, which they pocketed. Bonner, a naturalized U.S. citizen from Haiti, owned the Jesuela Variety Store. Elisme, a lawful permanent resident also from Haiti, owned the Saul Mache Mixe store. These two businesses were co-located within a single storefront in Boston. To be certain, these were not supermarkets. They were not full-service groceries. It would be a huge stretch to even call them convenience stores. In fact, the only thing convenient about these stores was how easy it was to commit SNAP benefit fraud. To put this in perspective, the Jesuela Variety Store is less than 150 square feet in size, smaller than some bathrooms. The Saul Mache Mixe store was approximately 500 square feet in space.
Unbelievable. The details of this are incredible. Why does it take the Republican U.S. attorney to tell you this? Because the governor doesn't care. Hell, the congresswoman, Ayanna Pressley, does everything in her power to bring more Haitians in to her district. She sees nothing wrong with people who contribute nothing but theft and fraud. If you told her today there's 100,000 more Haitians, she would fight to get them into the country. They don't care that we're importing criminals and fraudsters who add nothing, who do nothing to benefit us. They don't care. all she cares about is their color, their race. That's all Ionic. If they're people of color, she said, bring them in. So they're stealing 7 million from my constituents. I don't care. And people vote for her, and they will continue to vote for her. It's sickening. All right, I got to fly here. I want to get to the Australian PM because I know, Ironhead, I know you love this story. But before we do, there's a big event in Arizona and Phoenix right now, the AmFest. It's the Turning Point event, and it's wild. I mean, there was a lot going on last night with the great Thursday night football game and the manhunt where they found the dead gunman in New Hampshire. But this kicked off last night. Erica Kirk gave a speech. There's 30,000 people here. I didn't get invited. I want to go one of these years, but it's wild because you have all these different factions. Oh, I should say one big faction, the Turning Point and the people who support it. Then you have Tucker Carlson and a few others who are there to, mix it up. And I appreciate Tucker showing up and giving a speech, but he is outnumbered here. And you know what I've been asking for? I want these people, every one of them, to call out Candace Owen. Candace, the star of this, the host of this, Erica Kirk and the other Turning Point people, they're the people Candace Owen said are complicit in the murder of Charlie Kirk. And I've said many times, Tucker and Megyn Kelly just refuse to call Candace Owens out for what she is, a liar and a fraud and a grifter and a monster. Well, Ben Shapiro, God bless him, doesn't hold back. He gives this speech like minutes before Tucker took the stage, which is great. And Ben Shapiro did exactly what he should do in this situation. He called her out by name and he called her what she is, evil. Check this out.
So, if Candace Owens decides to spend every day since the murder of Charlie Kirk casting aspersions at TPUSA and the people who work here, who worked with Charlie every single day, his best friends, to cast aspersions at Mikey McCoy and Andrew Colvin and Blake Neff and Tyler Boyer, and yes, at Erica Kirk, and to imply or outright claim complicity in a cover-up over Charlie's murder, to spew absolutely baseless trash, implicating everyone from French intelligence to Mossad to members of TPUSA in Charlie's murder or a cover-up in that murder, then we, as people with a microphone, have a moral obligation to call that out by name.
Hold on.
Kirk and TPUSA never should have been put in the position to have to defend themselves against such specious and evil attacks, particularly in a time of mourning. And the people who refuse to condemn Candace's truly vicious attacks, and some of them are speaking here, are guilty of cowardice. Yes, cowardice.
Yes, that's exactly what we needed. You're a coward. If you won't call her out, if you won't call her what she is, you're a coward. Tucker, oddly, took the stage and started talking about things he always talks about, and he said, we have to stop attacking Muslims. We have to stop criticizing Muslims. And there was no cheers. It did not go over well. Ben Shapiro won that battle, but it's fascinating. Watch all these people on the same stage. You know what? You'll never see that on the other side. You will never see those disagreements or those fire exchanges. They don't do that. They don't step out of line, but we do because we are independent thinkers, and good for Ben Shapiro. Before we go, we got to get to this because we talked a lot about the Muslim terrorism in Sydney, Australia, where two Muslims, father and son, Islamic terrorists, shot and killed 15 Jewish people on a beach celebrating Hanukkah, injured many more, very dramatic scene. There was nobody there who could shoot back because they banned handguns, banned people from protecting themselves. But you were wondering what the solution would be. Well, as we've talked about all week, this clown, this Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, he said, we have to stop right-wing terrorism, right-wing extremism. We have to crack down on speech. Those are obvious solutions to Islamic terror, as we know. But check this out. Again, Australia has the toughest gun control laws in the world, or at least in the West. You can't own a handgun. It's hard to get a rifle unless you're, on the terror watch list. This family got 6 rifles and shotguns. This is almost hard to believe it's real. The Prime Minister of Australia says they're going to, in response to 2 Muslim terrorists killing 15 Jews on a beach, they're going to confiscate rifles and shotguns and melt them down. Now, think of Australia. Think of how many people live in the sticks, in the rural, in the mountain, whatever, in the outback, who have rifles and shotguns because they don't want, feral pigs killing their livestock, or they don't know if some will come in and kill them. So they have rifles. They can't have handguns, but they can have rifles, hunting rifles, bolt action rifles. But because the Muslim terrorists use bolt action rifles, this guy says we're going to melt them all down. He doesn't mention Islamic terror. He doesn't mention removing the real threat, which is terrorists who want to kill you because you're not Muslim. No, that's not the problem. The problem is too many bolt action rifles out there in the outback. Listen to this guy.
We expect hundreds of thousands of firearms will be collected and destroyed through this scheme. Consistent with the approach that was taken in 1996, the government is proposing that states and territories will be responsible for the collection, processing and payment to individuals for surrendered firearms. The Australian Federal Police will then be responsible for the destruction of these firearms.
That sounds like a parody. Doesn't that sound like Babylon Bee? We're going to take all your rifles, you hunters, you people, you farmers. We're going to take your rifles, confiscate them, and destroy them. That will stop Islamic terrorism. That is just incredible. Like, criminals are going to hand in their weapons and you can melt them down and everything will be okay. We can never allow this mindset, this mentality in this country. That is just suicide. But all right, that will do it for today. This crazy Friday, this crazy week. Man, I'm glad we were here, and we will be back next week. We're gonna be like Forrest Gump in the shrimp boat. We're gonna be the only ones in the ocean next week. We will be back Monday and do it again, and hopefully. Oh, by the way, today, Epstein files being released by midnight. I'm gonna guess about 10 of 12, we're going to get a tranche of Epstein files. And I'll predict again, Trump's not going to like it, but it's going to make Democrats really uncomfortable because Jeffrey Epstein was a Democrat. But that will do it for today and for this week. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'm Gerry Callahan. This is The Callahan Show, and we'll do it again Monday morning.
We're the United States of America.